Welcome to Ragnar Riders Shop Talk, the ultimate pit stop for all things two-wheeled and roaring. We are mostly ordinary guys who live and breathe the motorcycle lifestyle. From our personal journeys to gripping product and accessory reviews, bike builds that redefine the road, the latest industry buzz, and a sneak peek into our future travels, consider this your front row seat to our motorcycling odyssey. So kick back, relax, and let the engines roar as we dive deep into the world of chrome, leather, and the sweet symphony of the open highway. Welcome to Ragnar Riders Shop Talk, where the rubber meets the road and the stories unfold in the wind.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Ragnar Rider Shop Talk. We are three guys, maybe four at one point or another down the road that just like to do exactly as it says, talk shop.
Yeah.
We are most definitely not professional degreed engineers or certified mechanics. We are your average daily rider who attends rallies, takes trips, rides the roads of America, and just thoroughly enjoys two wheels and three wheels sometimes. With that all being said, if this is your first time hearing us, go back and listen to our inaugural podcast. It was a discussion on cams, and we are going to continue down that rabbit trail and visit some of the other areas where the cam is located and discuss things you can and should do, or at least inquire to do when you are working on your bike. My name is Randy Boren, and this is
DJ Seeley. Thanks for tuning in, and like Randy said, we're gonna jump in and talk about what happens when you do that cam job. When you make the decision, you do your research, you talk to who you're going to talk to, and this is the cam of choice. You've made your appointment with your mechanic, or maybe you're going to do it in your basement on your own. I don't know, but what are the other considerations that you might make while doing it?
right. If you have never seen a YouTube video, which I'm going to say that's not likely in today's world,
no.
all right? But if you've never seen one and you've never went out there, and we are the first that you've listened to about changing your
Yeah.
camshaft, then
Yeah.
we want to encourage you, as we said in our last episode, to do your due diligence. Go out there, do some digging, find out what's best for you, your riding style, what matches, and understand that your mechanic is going to have his thoughts and opinions. But at the end of the day, there are so many components that make up a cam job that you need to have your ducks in a row before you crack open the cam cover and start working on that, because you don't want to get into, and your mechanic say, well, you're in here, why don't you do this? And then you start having to buy parts that he's got off of his counter, maybe good, don't know, but because you're put in a pinch. So do your due diligence early and know what you're going to do when you go to your mechanic. Maybe you're just the kind of person that says, frankly, I really don't care. I just want to give it to him, let him do me a cam job, and I'm done. I've seen that.
And yeah, absolutely.
Kudos to you.
Seen that plenty of times. Yeah, wish I was that guy.
Yeah.
And to go back, certainly if this is the first time that you've researched a camshaft or installing a camshaft, and our video is the first one you pop up, hang around. There's going to be some good info, but
right.
Mark off a little more time on your calendar and keep searching, because like Randy said, we're not professionals. We're just a couple guys that got into motorcycling a little hot and heavy, and learned a lot, and thought we'd add value and share what we've learned. But yeah, so we were blessed, I think, in that when we built our bikes, we were able to go to our dealership. We talked to the mechanic that was going to do it, and he was eager to kind of open the door and let us hang out with him the day that he did it. And so we kind of got to see everything come apart and go back together. Now, we had watched video after video after video. We'd had conversations. So we weren't completely naive to everything that was happening.
No, in our heads, we'd already done this several times.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
yeah,
we've swapped
absolutely.
cams out numerous times in our heads. So we blindfolded, we could do it, but we just never have. So
I will say that one thing that we did learn is that if you get into this build, and I'm going to call it a build because it's probably going to be more than a camshaft. There's going to be other components that's going to go along with it, but these parts aren't cheap, and it's seldom that we have found that a dealer just has these things laying around.
right.
You
Other than
really,
what they like, other than what they're going to push, so to speak. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Sure.
Yeah.
No. You're exactly right. Most of this stuff is sitting on a shelf at a distribution center. You know, we sourced our parts from. I know I bought a lot of my stuff from Fuel Moto. I've talked about them before. Like dealing with them. I bought some stuff at Revzilla.
Fueling.
There's a number of them, but they're not cheap parts, and so you don't want to get into the middle of that build and say, "Oh, dang, I wish I'd have gotten, a cam chain tensioner."
Yeah.
Because guess what? It's 3 days away.
That's right. And the thing about it is that cam chain tensioner is $40.
Yeah.
So, you know, he is right. These parts are not cheap. But, you know, the bearing, and we'll get into some more specifics here in just a second as far as breaking it open, but just that bearing is, you know, 40, 50, $60. Mm-hmm. So some of the components aren't, but you're in there. And I'll keep pounding this point, and I'll probably say it too many to where it'll get boring to some, but do your due diligence while you're in there. What is it? Okay, so we've broken the cam cover open. Mm-hmm. All right, we've taken off the cam plate. We've taken out the oil pump.
Yeah.
We've taken out the cam, and now here we are sitting with an open cavity. You know, what's the first thing that you did when you guys got to that point on your bikes? What was the first thing you did next?
Well, so you bring up a valid point. You can tell by the model year oftentimes, and guys, y'all probably heard this before, but somewhere along the way in 2019, Harley added this seal on the back of the oil pump to prevent sumping,
right?
Or to help prevent sumping. So certainly if you have a 2019, which I did, or older,
right,
then oil pump's a must.
It is. I agree.
So that was an easy one. I had a 2019. If you have a 2019, you don't know if you have this in there or not until you take it out. And then it's, you know, at that point, luckily, I don't guess it really mattered, but my bikes, both of my 2019s both had the O-ring. So I guess I could have bolted them back in.
But there's another portion of that as well, not only the newer version of that O-ring, but also there was a time period up until 21 where the oil pumps were your basic Harley oil pumps off the shelf. Mm-hmm. You know, they were manufactured in assembly line process, and maybe at the beginning of the year, and we'll just kind of put a scenario for you so you can visual. You know, at the beginning of the year, Harley orders 42,000 oil pumps. All right, bring them home, bring them to the shop, put them on the shelf, and then they start installing them. Well, it's been pretty known that up until at least 21, when they increased the oil pump, changed the oil pump to a better quality, that if you were going to break open that cam cavity, that the oil pump had to be done.
Yeah.
And those of you that have a visual of what we're doing and watching us, you've got a cam plate, you've got the oil pump, you've got the parts and pieces here that, these all go together, and this is, what pulls off, and your cam is up in your bike, and all these come off, and your mechanic lays them all on the table, and, either he's going to say, okay, now what, or he's going to have it all laid out for you. So what he lays out for you is going to determine, when it's all put back together, how your bike performs. Mm-hmm. So we both opted to go with new cam plates, new oil pumps. One of the cheapest, biggest upgrades that you can do before you put that cam back in is the camshaft bearing. Yeah. I wish I had one here, and maybe we'll do it a later episode and get a visual of it, but there is a substantial difference between what Harley puts in from the factory and what you're going to buy, whatever brand, because most all of them are better. Where the bearings are closer together and smaller and just function a lot better.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that for those that do, that do have the visual. That's what this rides on right here. It sits on that bearing, spins inside that motor. So the more needles you have in that bearing, the closer together they can be, the smoother that cam's going to rotate.
That's right.
So yeah, it really was astonishing to me once we got the first one out, looked at it, and went, wow, I'd seen it on video and I'd heard people talk about it, but that is quite a difference. And for it to be such a minute part, Harley paid something for that cam bearing that's in it.
That's right.
I can't imagine they would have paid much more for the other one, but whatever. That subject alone will come up numerous times through this series, but
it will.
So yeah, we did oil pump. That I knew with the 2019 bike I needed to do the oil pump. I did the cam plate, even though my mechanic that I talked to had said, hey, I've never had a cam plate fail. Gosh, when you look at that, I did a fueling in one bike and an S&S in the other bike. When you look at the anodized aluminum, forged cam plate compared to this, it's pretty. It's pretty. And
that's right.
By God, it's my bike, and I have the right.
That's right.
If I want one that just looks cool, to put it on there.
Even though, technically, it's a part you'll never see again once you put the cover back on, unless you put a clear cover.
Right.
But to DJ's point though, if we had something to really get across to you guys that are in our world, and that's the amateur world. If you're a mechanic and you do this on a daily basis, you may be laughing at us. I don't know. But if you're an amateur and you're trying to figure out what you want to do to your bike, maybe you hadn't been in a long time. Look, you're talking about a bearing, and let's talk some real numbers for them here for just a second. Okay. You're talking about a bearing that's about $60.
Yeah, if that.
Yeah. You're talking about a camshaft that can range anywhere from like $280 to $400.
Yeah.
All right. Then you're talking about a cam plate and an oil pump that's going to range anywhere from about $600 to $1,000. Mm-hmm. Probably more commonly around the $750 mark. Mm-hmm. So before you even get out of that cam, you're $1,200, $1,300 into this process. You're talking about sprocket for the chain on the outside. You're talking about tensioner. So you're $1,500. It's not labor, it's just parts, and you're only in one cavity of the motor. So I wanted to get that out there because if you are going to break it open, you might as well, while you're in there, get it all done, do it right, and when you close it up, you have no regrets.
Yeah. And Randy will probably say this about me or agree with this about me. I hate taking my bike apart. I'm of the mindset that the more times you disassemble it and reassemble it, whether it's the fairing, the motor, swapping exhaust, whatever it is, it just unnerves me every time I have to do something and take apart something that I've already had apart, just because I fear that one time that bolt's going to break.
I think it did, didn't it?
It did. It did. We can talk about that in another episode. You want to talk about things that make you go, uh-oh.
Yeah. Between the bolt breaking and the bike almost falling off the lift, so we'll...
Hey. Yeah, Josh will appreciate you telling that
That's right, that's right.
But yeah, so that was kind of my driving factor in making those decisions was what all is going to come off of this bike.
Right.
And what all is going to go back on this bike. And are there any changes that I want to make? Mm-hmm. Because I knew that I wanted a new head pipe. I wanted to get rid of the catalytic converter. Sorry, California.
Not sorry.
There were covers that came off. There were bolts that came out. There's all these parts and components. So I tried to just make a list. Say, okay, what's going to be sitting on the lift table once disassembly's done? Well, what's going to be piled up around the lift?
Right.
And then, do I want to put that part back on, or do I want to take this opportunity and upgrade it?
Sure.
And it's a big savings too. Like if
oh yeah,
the technician that's doing it, if you're doing it at a shop and they're charging whatever they charge, $125 an hour, $150 an hour. Some I've heard as much as $200 an hour. Like he's paying, or you're paying that labor for him to put the old head pipe back on or a new head pipe back on. So if you want a new head pipe,
now's the time to do it.
Now's the time to do it, and only pay that labor one time.
Yeah. He can't take the cam off. He can't take all that stuff has to come off, and he can't do it without taking the head pipe. So you'll hear us say a lot throughout these episodes where, the term, you're already in there, all right? So or some form of that, but it really is true. If you crack open I wanted to do something in my fairing the other day, but I had another thing that I wanted to do as well. So I waited till that item came in, so I only opened it once, and I got them both done at the same time.
Yeah.
A little chuckle of an analogy here. I take a shower, at night. I go to bed. I wake up the next morning, take another shower. But here's the question. I take a shower. I was clean the night before, but do I put back on the same underwear? The answer for me is no. Those underwear go in the dirty clothes basket, and I put on a clean pair of underwear. So my point is that, you're taking it out. You're in there. I mean, you could put back on that original part, but
and people do.
Well, they do all the time. And you know what? And to your point, DJ, saving money.
Yeah.
I mean, that oil pump cam plate combination is $700. I get it. Everybody can't do that. I mean, it was a tight fit for me. I had to save. I bought it over a period of a couple of months. I got all my parts together. So I get that part of it. So I guess that whole going back to doing your due diligence is that if it takes you some time to buy your parts, then do it. And that way, when you get it done, you can do it right the first time. Because, yes, what we all want is when we pull up that red light and hear that lope. Or when we crank it up, it sits there, and once it hits that warm idle, we hear that lope. That's what we want. Yes, a cam will do that for you. Oil pump plate, that don't do the lope.
It's not tangible.
It's not
at all. I don't
it's
think.
Not. But it can be a performance portion of your build, as DJ likes to use the term, down the road. The new oil pumps, much cleaner flow, a much high efficiency flow, along with other parts and pieces that we'll get into down the road that do as you're taking them off and replacing them with better product.
I might go as far as to say the bike may run cooler.
I could.
You're moving a higher volume of air through an oil cooler.
Right.
Oil.
Yeah, right.
Through the oil cooler from this high volume pump, but that may still be reaching. I don't know.
Well, I mean,
but if I had to assign something to it,
that's what it would be.
That's what it would be.
So when I did the Road Glide build, that was the first build. John did his when he bought his bike, and then it took about a year before we started. All right. So, and then I was the first to do. So when I did mine, the only thing that I knew was that I wanted a CR 482. I had the Cyclorama 482 cam. I had done my research. That was the cam I wanted. That was the bottom line. Other things I was not sure about. So I opted when I went to my mechanic and I said, you know what, what do you have that I can do? He said, well, we got this, and started naming off Screaming Eagle parts. And the Screaming Eagle parts, even for Harley, were better than stock.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I went back with Screaming Eagle push rods, Screaming Eagle pump, Screaming Eagle cam plate, or as we like to fun around about, orange. All right. So we went with that, and I don't have any regrets. It performs fantastic. But then when we got ready to do his two, and then we got ready to do my other one, and then we had learned, all right, well, let's take our time, do our due diligence here, and I think we'll buy this and buy this and buy that, and that way we're not having to use all of Harley stuff.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to experience the world.
Well.
And the world's big when it comes to this stuff.
So the Harley aftermarket world, I don't know that it's rivaled by anyone.
I don't either.
Yeah, it's just huge. I don't know.
Maybe the Jeep world, because
there's
I know
a possibility.
But
there,
I think that may be about it. Even the fishing world, I'm not for sure compares to that. So
no. So yeah, John. I don't think John did his cam plate and oil pump, but he had a 2020.
Yeah.
And I've got my trike is a 2020, and just did the cam in it, and I didn't change the oil pump and oil plate in it, cam plate, excuse me. It really wasn't necessary. It's not the higher performing vehicle, right? So it wasn't as important to me, and maybe it's not that important to you. But do the research, see what's out there.
Right.
Like Randy mentioned, don't just go to the dealership, talk to the mechanic, and assume that he's offering you everything that there is to be had.
Right.
I can remember my first bike that I bought was a 2014 Ultra Limited. I'm a big guy, stand 6'4", and I knew I wanted handlebars. The bars that came on it from the factory that were still on it then when I bought it in what was that, 2019, I guess, when I bought that bike. I knew I wanted bars, and I had not been introduced to the aftermarket world. I went to the parts counter. They've got 2-3 choices.
Yeah.
I made one of those and just assumed that was the best there was to offer. Mm-hmm. If I had to make that decision over again, would I go with the same ones? No, not a chance.
Well, you have made that decision, and you did not.
I have made that decision multiple times.
Whether it was bars
then,
or whatever, you went differently.
Didn't go the same way. So, yeah, that's the point. Just do a Google search.
And I did the same thing with my Street Glide. I bought the 2011 Street Glide, and I wanted bars and slip-ons. That was really all I knew. I was just getting back into the motorcycle world. It was my first Harley. And I did the same thing. I went and said, "What you got?" Well, we've got some Vance and Hines high output, 4.5-inch slip-on. Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's chrome. It looked good. Now, what about bars? Well, we've got some 12-inch, round. They weren't the meat hooks. They were the sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Throw them on there for me. How much is that going to be? About $6 million. Yeah, but seriously, and I paid for it and left, and I was happy as a lark because I didn't know any better.
Sure.
And we'll punt around a lot about being envious of guys that don't know any better, because now we do, and it's a burden to bear. All right, it just is. It just is.
There's not any other way to put it. It'll make you sick.
Yep.
But yeah, do your research. Know what's out there. Know what you want to get out of it. And that doesn't have to stop with these parts, like we've talked about with handlebars or exhausts. Be confident about your purchase. The last thing you want to do is to make a purchase and then, I don't know, exhaust systems, $1,500–$1,600, $500–$600 labor. You're $2,000 into an exhaust system easy, and then decide that really didn't do what I wanted it to do, or maybe you need to have a realistic expectation of what you want out of it. I see that a lot with guys. You go in there and you're looking at the parts counter. You're on the website, and you let that testosterone get a hold of you. And man, you want that racing system. Are you really racing?
Yeah.
Do you really want a racing system?
It's like when we go to the rallies and we see all these bikes that have these Trask turbo systems strapped onto the side.
Yeah.
These gaudy looking whatevers. And these are guys that have done everything into a bike and still have a pocket full of money and got to put it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing we can think of. Because, what they're getting out of that, they'll rarely use.
Sure.
Otherwise, their plot in the cemetery needs to be prepared and ready, because
they don't value their life like I value mine.
And that would be the ultimate, I guess, the ultimate case there.
Sure.
It's, and I said it on the first episode. We said, what comes stock on these bikes is probably more than any of us will ever fully utilize. So what we're doing is, one, we've got a little expendable cash, and we want to invest it into our bikes. And we got certain sounds and certain performances that we're learning about, which is our case, that now we want to see them perform that way. And those of you that don't know, and maybe are new to this as well, there are stages to these upgrades. DJ was just giving you a stage 1 where you swap head pipe and air cleaner. You're talking about getting rid of the catalytic converter. You're talking about getting better airflow. And then the next stage 2 involves a cam, and maybe a cam plate oil pump. Maybe that whole cavity of the bike there gets kind of a redo. Then you've got a 3, and then you've got a 4, and then you've got big bore kits. There's just really no end to money. But either way, once you start, you're into this thing with your hard-earned cash. Your money, not the dealer's money, not your brother-in-law's money, it's your money. You need to make sure you spend it wisely.
Yeah.
With what you want to ultimately get out of it, no matter what that is.
And I would Don't be fooled by the marketing campaign that the dealership puts out there, where it's stage 1 and then stage 2 right on top of that, and then you move to stage 3 and you move to stage 4, because it's marketed in a manner where it's progressive.
Correct.
And it's not.
That's right.
Don't.
It does not have to be, for sure.
Yeah, I would say know what you want your end game to be, and make steps towards your end game. The camshaft that you choose with a factory displacement, a 114,
right.
117, the camshaft that you choose for a 117 may not be the same camshaft that you would choose for a 131. So you don't want to be putting in a S&S 475 and then next riding season you want to change heads and increase displacement, and then be looking at a 500 series lift.
Right.
Camshaft, because then this one's paperweight.
That's right.
Maybe one of your buddies would want it, but probably not. You're probably not going to take it out of this motor and stick it in another motor.
I mean, and I think that's a valid point, along with what DJ mentioned either in our last episode or earlier in this one. Know what your end game is. Because that was one of my failures on the Road Glide, that initially I didn't know. I just knew what I wanted. I couldn't see past right now. Now I can see way down the road. But then, and this was only back in April, all right? I couldn't see. So if you're going to do a head pipe, just know that each time that you're having something done to that bike, 90% engine-wise, 90% of the time that head pipe's got to come off. Mm-hmm. So you're paying labor to remove that head pipe. So if you're going to do a stage 1 with an air cleaner and a head pipe, if that is all you can do, hey, you know what? Show hard-earned money, take it, make it happen.
Sure.
But if you can manage to save up a little bit and do, a cam and do a stage 2, at that point now you're doing head pipe. You only have to pay one time to take that head pipe off. And yeah, it's only about an hour, some change, but it's $125, $150.
Yeah.
Added to your bill every time you have to take that head pipe off to do something. So
depending on how you go about doing it, yeah, sure.
Correct.
And like I said, I want my bike to come apart and go back together one time and be done. I hope I can hold to that, but
we'll let you know about that.
That little voice on my shoulders.
That's right.
It confuses me sometimes, and I start finding myself on the interwebs, researching things I have no business riding on. But hey, that's why we do it, right?
That's right. That's it.
Yeah.
Real quick, just a list. Cyclorama 480, 483, Star Racing 3030, Fueling set 472, Wood Performance 475, Zippers Red Shield 472, 475 S&S, Woods Performance 22 XD. Look, the list just goes on.
It does.
So do your due diligence. Know what you want out of your bike. Make the end result make you happy.
Hey, yeah. And if you want to know more about our opinions, shoot us an email, rrshoptalk@gmail.com.
Yep. What parts we've used, be glad to share with you, what kind of performance. And I will go so far as to say that we haven't dynoed any of our bikes, all right?
Nope.
We've replaced the tuners or the ECMs. We'll get into that another day, but we have not put them on dyno. So, that, again, that's not where we're at yet. Maybe we'll do it one day just for the fun of it, but every time we go to a rally and we hear a bike take off up to about 7,000 RPMs, one of us goes, well, they're $600.
You want $600?
Because that's about what it takes to do it.
Yeah,
it's not necessary to necessarily get everything you want out of it. So
No, for the average Joe, I would agree with that. No, it's not necessary. No, there's other ways to get there, and like Randy said, we'll get into that in another episode. But yeah, do the research, know what you want your end product to be, work towards that, and don't get in a hurry.
that's right.
So Jeremy, your brother-in-law that may be with us on a future podcast, we've had conversations with him about that. Mm-hmm. Talk to this guy and talk to that guy and listen to this bike and ride this bike, and don't feel like it's all got to happen right now. Don't feel like just because your buddy did it this year that you got to do it next month. Guess what? He's not going to know.
That's right.
he's not going to care if it's next spring before you get your cam.
That's right.
And
for
he's
the
still
most
going to
part-
encourage you to ride with him.
That's right. And for the most part, you're not going to a rally where you might swap a windshield or a stereo system or something kind of quick. You're not going to a rally to do a cam.
For the most part, no.
They'll do it there. Don't get me wrong, but it's not. It really is as big at a rally to just go there and have you break open your motor while you're there to ride and do some swapping around. So it's not something like that. This is something that again that you want to do all your research and get out of it what you can what best benefits you.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. I'd talk to go to a local bike night. There's bike nights everywhere. Call the dealerships or get on websites or something. Find out when the bike nights are at and just talk to people.
Yep.
Talk to mechanics. Find out, there's other people out there other than the dealerships that will work on these bikes. And I have thoroughly enjoyed being able to have my hands oily while the bike's being built. I may not be the one building it, but seeing the parts as they come out, and I'm unpackaging them, I'm seeing them go in, and understanding the mechanics more of how the bike operates, and what these different parts do, and torque specs, and
I think that's what brought us here. To be honest with you, had I taken my bike to the dealer, dropped it off, and 2 days later went back and picked it up, I don't know. Yes, YouTube and Google, but I think physically sitting. Being allowed, and kudos to our dealership that we do all of our business at, that allows us to come in there, and maybe we'll get them involved in some of our future podcasts and videos. But to let us sit and watch, we can even participate. I cut push rods. We've broke open the primary. I've replaced the clutch. I've put in a comp sprocket. There's just lots of stuff that we've got to enjoy. And I think that's where we arrived at what we wanted to do here, was because we've been able to be involved that intensely from the build out of our bike. We're no experts. It doesn't make us experts.
Sure.
But it does make us knowledgeable for the common Joe that's out there that goes, hey, I got a little question. I don't really feel like I want to call a know-it-all mechanic. I'd like to just ask, Joe Schmo and see what he thinks.
Yeah.
Well, we're Joe Schmo. So
couldn't have said it better. That it for today?
I think so.
All right, cool. Check us out on our next episode. We'll dive a little deeper. If you got questions, comments, concerns, ideas for another podcast, something you want to hear more about, again, the email address, rrshoptalk@gmail.com.
Hey, God bless. Take care.
Yep.